Welcome to Fantasy Fast Break, the fantasy basketball show where you get the news and information you need in 12 minutes or less. I'm your host, Erik Ong, and joining me in our first, I guess, official episode here on the show is my buddy Marco. Marco, how are
What's
you doing?
up? I'm pretty good. How
Right.
about you?
Okay, I'm doing fine, and I'm excited to get this little project of ours on the road. It's for those of you who may or may not know and have followed me in the past on Twitter. That's my Twitter handle underneath my face over here on the show. We Marco and I actually started and did two episodes of this show, but it was released in the YouTube channel of Then Hoopball. But like a budding superstar, we decided to go off on our own, and
Spread our wings
um,
and fly.
yes, exactly. And we're starting our new and very own dedicated YouTube channel. So please, if you enjoy our show, hit that like and subscribe button. You know the drill. What are we doing here, basically? What's this show all about? Basically, it's a fantasy basketball show for those of you who know and play the game fantasy NBA. I'm a editor over at Sports Ethos. It's a recently rebranded website that tackles sports in general, but with originally leaning towards the NBA and fantasy basketball. I'm one of the editors in charge of the fantasy basketball section of the website, and I've been playing fantasy basketball since 2003, and I've been writing about fantasy basketball since 2006, on and off via blogging. But I felt that I wanted, to try another medium and find another way to express and share my thoughts on the game, with fans, viewers, listeners, subscribers, whatever. um, Marco, why don't you tell our friends, well, what's your story and how you got started in fantasy?
Well, I started in 1989. Yep. Sophomore year in high school. That was my second year in the US. And that was the next level of being a fan. So for me, it was great. It was a lot of numbers. And basically, I've been pontificating ever since to those people who want to listen to my point of view. And I'm happy that we have this stage to pontificate and catch a wider audience. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So Marco and I were classmates in grade school, been separated, parted ways in high school when he went off to the States and studied there. I'm from the Philippines, by the way, for those of you who don't know, and I'm one of the few. I am the only fantasy basketball expert who's competing in the 30 deep, um, the biggest, I guess, fantasy basketball league that's participated in by experts across the internet, guys from every outlet out there, the NBA, ESPN, CBS, uh, Basketball Monster, NBC Sports Edge, formerly Roto World, and names that you might recall or know: Rick Kamla, Dr. A, Steve Alexander, Aaron Brewski, the founder of Sports Ethos, is also there, of course. Pretty much a who's who of writers in the industry. If they write about fantasy basketball and they are pretty good at it, their odds are there. I've been fortunate enough to have been playing in that league for around 7 seasons now, and proudly I've been doing pretty well. I've been in six playoff appearances, which isn't pretty good considering it is a 30 team deep league. But all right, that's basically who we are, and for 12 minutes every show, Marco and I would like to discuss a few things related to the game of fantasy basketball. uh, you know, we feel that in general that 12 minutes is sufficient to cover ideally, every, key point there is to discuss, and so that you could, go on with the rest of your day basically. And what is 12 minutes if not just, one quarter of a full NBA game?
There's
So,
no timeouts in this show, though.
oh, well, no, yes, we we
We got
we
running time.
record this. We record this live. There's probably very few edits, if any, at all, that we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Maybe, there will be some tweaking for production value purposes, but
Mm.
as far as changing whatever it is we say, we're saying this out, live. And
That's it.
yeah, so we're starting a bit late into the season. The season is well underway, and we're basically new to this. This is the first time I'm producing and hosting my own show here on YouTube, and I'm learning as I go. But so please bear with us, and it's a learning process. If you'd like to think about it in a certain way, we're basically rookies, yeah, at this, and it's there's a learning curve, and hopefully we'll end up being more Evan Mobley than Jalen Green. So, you know, um, anyway, so without further ado, let's, begin our discussion. We won't do the 12-minute timer yet today, since this is basically our effective first episode. But we'd like to discuss a little bit of about our leagues, how we're doing. Week 8 just ended as of the recording of this show. Um, my leagues, I'll start. My leagues are, I guess, a mixed bag. I've been hit hard by COVID and injuries. It's been a brutal year already. It's only one third of the season down, but it's been brutal. I've suffered week 8. I had Paul George with his elbow injury. Um, uh, Jimmy Butler and his tailbone, bruised tailbone. Um, you know, uh, the poor performances of Bradley Beal. I have like two
Mm,
shares of Bradley Beal.
mm,
I'm suffering through
mm,
that.
mm.
And most recently, the big blow to my team is the announcement that Zach Levine has entered the league's health and safety protocols, and he's set to be out for
10 days.
7 to 10 days.
Mm.
I'm crossing my fingers that it's a false positive, like what happened to LeBron James, but I'm not holding my breath, and I'm gonna have to sit him in my weekly roster changes league. But I'm gonna have to gut it out in my league where we have no IL slot, and that's gonna be murder. I'm already uh, I had to trade away OG Ananobi
Mm.
for Gordon Hayward. I had to sell
Ooh,
down.
ooh.
It's taking a hit, I know, but I'm dealing with the Levine injury, an injury to Rashawn Holmes. I own Mason Plumlee in that league. It's a mess. I'm like third to the last out of 16. Um, in another league, I'm third in my Roto league,
Mm.
where I'm playing eight cats against Aaron Brewski. That was a good league last season. I won $1,000 in that league. I'm
Hey.
currently sitting in third place. Yes, thanks. That was that made me positive for the year last year. So that's doing okay. So I guess on the money side of these money leagues, I'm still doing well in the bigger money leagues, but in others not so much. How about you, Marco? How's your
Wait,
season going?
hold on. How many teams do you have again?
I have 9 teams this season. I
Ah.
finally cut it down. I reached
Oh,
a ridiculous high of 26 at some point in my
wow.
fantasy basketball playing
Definitely a
career.
professional.
Yeah, well, no, a lot of those were free leagues, and it's only recently that I've been playing in higher and higher stakes,
Yeah.
getting more serious with it actually. And it's a pursuit. It's a game that I enjoy. Not
Hmm.
just because of the uh, about it being skinned or themed with an NBA, but the game itself. For you listeners, we look at it. Well, at least I do. I look at it from the point of view of a. It's like a stock trading game. If you think about it, we're invested in players. They're like
Hmm.
companies. They perform well. They or perform poorly in some
Hmm.
cases, and half the fun. And I have to share this about Marco. He's a trading machine. He enjoys tinkering with his team, and it's like stocks. It's about buying low and selling high, and
Exactly.
and that's something that some of the little nuggets of wisdom that you probably have heard through the years, but you're gonna hear it again from me and Marco, because we believe that fantasy basketball is all about timing. It's riding the waves of hot pickups, hot
Hmm.
players, dropping them at just before they start you know becoming crappy again, and yeah, riding players before you trade them. It's timing is everything, I guess.
Yep.
And whether it's within the season or within a player's career, actually, is it you have to know when it's time to stop drafting Paul Millsap, or or
Or
it's
drafting Kyrie Irving.
oh
Period.
yes, exactly. Well, he's a special case. It's or yeah, maybe I I'm thankfully, since you brought up Kyrie Irving, he is somebody that I thankfully pre-excluded in all of my leagues this year. Meaning, no matter what, I was not going to draft him, however late or however far he was going to fall. I lucked out on that one. Um, do you have any shares of Kyrie Irving, Marco?
In my three teams that I am in, all money leagues, I don't have any shares of Kyrie Irving. But the aforementioned Bradley Beal, I have two shares, and it's
Same here too.
not really panning out. I have him in my nine cat in the draft league that I'm a commissioner of, and also in our seven cat league. It's not panning
Okay,
out.
so I think he's somebody that's worth discussing. I've
Mm.
gotten a lot of comments on Twitter regarding the Bradley Beal, from
Hmm.
especially from one of my more vocal followers, and he's really frustrated with Bradley Beal, and frankly, so am I. Is it too late to give up on him this season, or is it too early? I mean, sorry, is it too early to give up on Bradley Beal? Do you think he can turn it around?
I think he can turn it around because he's not going anywhere. I don't feel that he's gonna get traded. And on the flip side, what can you get for him for an underperforming first rounder,
Late first
right?
rounder, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's not much you can get for him with his current value, and I agree. Trading him probably would not be the wisest thing to do, because that will be selling low. And that's not one
very
of the
low,
things we
very
we
low. Yeah.
espouse here.
Yes.
Um, okay, if that's the case, then who? Uh, let's move on. Who are
Hmm.
the players you gave up on early
Hmm.
in the season?
I had a mishap in our auction league. You and me are in, and I kind of pressed the wrong buttons and got Darius Baisley for $34 out of the 200 that we have.
Oh yeah,
Totally
that
messed up.
was
And
a facepalm moment. Yeah, guys, viewers, that was a facepalm moment. And I'm not gonna lie, I was laughing my ass off when I saw Marco hit that button, and the number suddenly jumped in the salary cap draft. I
oh
believe
yeah,
it's called nowadays.
salary cap.
Um, and offered Darius Baisley 34 out of his 200 fantasy dollars as salary. Obviously, nobody wanted to pay more than that. Um,
Nope.
you
I
gave
was the
up on
guy.
that. So you effectively overpaid for him, and you
By a
dropped him. Is
factor
that
of
correct?
10. By a
Yeah, by a
factor of 10.
factor of that. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
he was even. He should have been a one to $2 kind of guy in a
Yeah.
16 team deep
So
league pre-draft.
even before the season, I was in scramble mode already.
Yes,
And
yes.
I gave up on someone that I shouldn't have, especially how I got him for only $2. And that's Ricky Rubio. I just dropped
Oh,
him in that
well,
league. Trying to
I
search
think,
for value. I dropped
yeah,
that
yeah. You
because I
gave
was
up on
thinking,
Rubio. That's
yeah.
an interesting guy to have given up on.
Hmm.
Related to Rubio, I in that league that Marco and I are in, I drafted Colin Sexton, and it's Colin
Mm,
Sexton's injury
yeah.
that opened things up a bit for Rubio. Now that
Hmm.
Rubio's guaranteed so much more playing time, even though he's
Much more.
still coming off the bench. He's still providing a quality number of assists and steals. The scoring, it was never really there. He's not
Yeah.
going to score 20 points every night, even though he did on the odd game here and there. Yeah, so he's somebody you gave up on,
Yeah.
and somebody I gave up on, and I had a lot of shares. I think I had three, maybe four shares of Chris Boucher. He is somebody I
Ah,
traded for in
yeah.
that salary cap keeper league. By the way, folks, I had the
In the off
keeper.
season, right?
Yeah, I traded Christian Wood um, for the same keeping dollar value to acquire Chris Boucher. What that obviously made like an a really ugly move. Um, but thankfully, long story short, TLDR, everyone. I dropped Chris Boucher in every league that I had him. The times that he was not playing
Mm.
um, up to last season standards, or not even playing at all
Mm.
via DNP coach's
Coach's
decision, was just
decision.
too much for me to handle.
Yeah.
uh, Thankfully, even after dropping him and losing Colin Sexton and losing Michael Porter Jr. in that same league, I think I'm doing reasonably okay. I think I'm in the top five. I I drafted pretty well. I got great value guys in Mo Bamba, who I'm really
Mm.
loving this season.
Mm.
Renamed my team after him and everything. I'm enjoying the heck out of him. Evan Mobley is somebody I also lucked out on, providing me so much value. I think I was able to snag him for like less than $10, yeah, which is all obviously a value, a value meal, so to speak, because I get a toy um, with it. So yeah, those are the guys who we gave up on early in the season. Um,
Mhm.
but how about the other side of things? We're talking about guys that we thought would do well but didn't. But on the flip side of that coin, who are, you know, I guess the players that you would say uh, you regret not drafting this season. Uh, name one, two, whatever. It's up to you, Marco. Who's your guy?
Well, of course, hindsight's 2020,
Of course,
and
of course.
I would go against my mantra of just drafting people, good players from bad teams, and staying away from super teams. But Kevin Durant, without Kyrie, looks very good. Kevin Durant and James Harden is really really good right now in Brooklyn. So, I mean,
All
he's
right.
always had he's always had the percentages that you aspire to have from like a number one pick. But what was he drafted on the average, right?
Yeah, probably after the top 10 in most standard leagues.
Yeah.
People were worried about his injury
Mm-hmm.
history over the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of seasons. I, for one, am part of that boat. I had him excluded on sheer concerns about his durability, but he's so far proven me wrong. He's only had like one official rest day. He's been playing in back to backs. He's the third best player in nine cat scoring right
Mm-hmm.
now, and
Mm-hmm.
is in the conversation, if not leading the you know
Don't
the
get carried away. Don't get
if
carried away.
not leading the
And
discussion for MVP right
yeah,
now. It's
you
between
got
him and
carried
Steph
away.
Curry. All right. So, but no, hey, it's still early. We're only one third of the regular season, but he and Curry are like the top three players right now. The
Mm-hmm.
top three players in nine cat scoring at as of the recording of the show is first. You have Steph Curry, second Nikola Jokic,
Jokic.
and
Yep.
third, you know, Kevin
Kevin
Durant.
Durant.
All right. So just today, just tonight, at the end of week 8, Sunday, Kevin Durant, with a resting James Harden, went off
Mm.
on the Detroit Pistons. scoring his recording his eighth 50-point game of his career. He dropped 51 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, uh, 2 blocks, 5 threes, you name it. He filled the stat sheet. And not only, do these, counting stats look impressive on their own, but his impact in category scoring formats was, I
Crazy.
would say, pretty crazy, because he had amazing shooting from the field,
Oof.
amazing shooting from the line. He was an impact in every category, in nine cat. He's definitely somebody I regret not drafting. Um,
If you
and
were
probably
behind,
just we don't have the same guy.
yeah,
Another guy who I actually missed out on, and I'm gonna get to him in a minute. Um, just to cite what Kevin how Kevin Durant achieved his 51-point evening. He shot 16 of 31 from the field and 14 of 15 from the free throw line. That's just crazy impact right there.
Eric,
Um,
if you were behind during the week, he caught you
yeah,
up and then maybe won you the week with this line.
probably. And
Oof.
that's why he's been such a huge impact player in
Mm.
fantasy. And again, probably one of the reasons why I regret not drafting him right now. But um, another guy who I actually regret missing out on. I mean, I had my eye on him, but I didn't expect him to be this good, and that's Dejounte Murray
Mm.
of the San Antonio Spurs. Um, he had a cool triple double this evening with, I think, 10 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists against the Pelicans. The scoring wasn't too high tonight,
Hmm.
but over the course of the season, um, even though it's only been like 8 weeks, Murray is, a top 20 player. And he was,
Why didn't you get him? What
um,
was your thinking?
all right. I knew he was going to be somebody on the Spurs was going to have to step up in the absence of DeMar DeRozan, who went to the Bulls. I was more worried about the 4-2-4 schedule. A lot of
Mm.
my leagues are weekly, are sorry, are head-to-head leagues, and um, I was kind of worried about the 2 game week, which would
In the playoffs.
effectively be the semifinals,
Mm.
right, in the fantasy playoffs that the Spurs have. And that's what kind of made me shy away from the Spurs. I kind of downgraded him a bit too much. He was pretty much picked up, somewhere in the 30s in leagues where I've been playing, that were, uh, where managers were aggressive and went after him. It was more of a schedule thing. I think he was good. I think he was gonna be a top 35 player. To be fair, that's where I had him pegged at.
Mm.
But I didn't expect him to be a top 15 player, let
Yeah.
alone, he flirted with top 10 value just like a week ago in week 7. And that's crazy. Did you expect that from Murray? I mean, I
Well,
knew you probably, we both expected him to be good, but I
yes.
don't think even you saw him to be this good, right?
Well, for me, it was definitely part of the people I was looking at because of my mantra. Good player, bad team, and the Spurs are not doing so good. Someone has to shoot the ball. But I felt like in our keeper league, the it was the guy was asking for too much for him when I was talking to him in the salary
Mm.
cap league.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean, before, I mean, I'm talking about in general. Did you target him at all pre-draft in any of your leagues?
no, I was going for a different type of player, but it ended up that he's the type of player that I should have been getting because
I know. Same here.
that's what he's doing is what I want. Fills up the stat sheet.
As we said earlier, it was, it's hindsight is 2020. I mean, off the top, I knew he was great at two things, not Well,
Hmm.
one thing that in particular that I might have been after in that steals. He was a great. He's been always a great steals uh, specialist. But aside from that, Murray has always been a great rebounder out of
For
the
a guard.
point guard spot, and
Yeah.
he's been killing it. Out of the guards this season, there are only a handful of really great rebounding guards, and
Hmm.
you could probably name them. They're Murray, Josh Hart, Josh Giddey. I'd throw in Cade Cunningham over there as good rebounding guards.
Point
Um,
guards.
yeah, but I would have said Ben Simmons, but he doesn't really count because not only
Who?
has he
Who?
not played Ben
Who's that?
Simmons, he's not played, and um, I think he's gonna play this season though. Last before
Mhm.
we end our little chit chat, we might as well end it on Ben Simmons. Last bit of news that has been coming out on the net is that Ben Simmons trade talks have been heating up with the
Mm.
Sixers and various suitors.
Not
Do you
not the
have
Trailblazers.
okay? That's been pretty clear. And
Yeah.
the Blazers have been made it crystal clear that they're not going to be trading Damian Lillard for him,
Mhm.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of out of the question on the Sixers side because Daryl Morey wants a, a, a a quality all-star level player in exchange plus for Ben Simmons, which is obviously asking too much. But despite that, I think that there are several suitors, and
You
trade
should go
talks
to the
are heating up.
Nets.
Yeah,
Trade
that's
headache for headache. See who wins.
maybe. We'll see.
Hey.
Um, and would you do you think Ben Simmons will still be an impact player? I mean, there are a lot of guys out there who drafted him and
Hmm.
have held on to him for over the course of the first 8 weeks of this league. That 1/3 of the league is over, um, of the season. Sorry, of the fantasy season is over. And is he going to be an impact player still once he finally is playing for a team?
Well, you have to think about your plans, short term or long term, because in some of our leagues it's a dynasty, so part of your roster rolls over. So if I had a long view, I would definitely get him, especially how low he was drafted or taken in the salary cap league. But then again, if it's just for this season, it's like a free agent rental, expiring contract. So you're hoping for the best. It really depends on what you trade for to get them.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Well, I for one, I think regardless of where he ends up landing, the basic stat set is not going to change. You can count on something like 6.5 to 7.5 boards, maybe
Hmm.
more, depending on where he
Hmm.
lands. The assists are going to be there somewhere in the 7.5 range, and so will the
Steals in the
steals. He's always
and
been
the
a
blocks.
great defender.
Yep.
We should expect anywhere from 1.5, maybe even 1.8 steals per game
Hmm.
because that's the kind of guy that he is, a great rebounder and defender. He's not a great shooter. Yeah, he doesn't shoot threes. He doesn't shoot free throws very well, but he
Nope.
he he can crash the boards, pass the rock, and swipe those steals. So I'd expect that stat set to remain pretty much intact.
Eric,
And with that,
Eric? Who do you think your his ideal landing spot would be?
I don't really know it. It's actually I
Hmm.
don't care because
You
I
don't own him.
I I
You don't have
I
any
don't
shares
have
of him.
any Ben Simmons shares, nor have I tried to invest in them by quote unquote buying low. I know a lot of managers out there tried to offload him early, uh, or lately. Still, I'm not. At this point, it's too late to buy into him. Obviously, with these trade talks finally heating up, and there's this sense or buzz that he's finally gonna take to the court. Where he lands, it doesn't matter. And any team that doesn't have a lot of depth at the point guard spot,
Mm.
so that he can have as much minutes and usage that he can handle, since he had so much time, to rest up and not be playing. Um,
Celtics maybe.
but the Celtics, yeah, I know that the Marcus Smart is pretty disgruntled and
Mm,
unhappy with that situation there, but he's not going to do it. He's not going to be enough. They're going to have to part with somebody on the level of Jalen Brown, and that's simply not going to happen. On the Celtics side of things, you're not going to trade Brown for Simmons, and uh, I don't think they're going to make good bedfellows as far as seeing that Simmons move, happen. But I don't know. It's something worth discussing when it actually happens. And another topic for another time, I guess. How about you?
yes.
Where would you like to see Simmons land before we
Cle-
wrap up the show?
Cleveland. I think they have the enough tools to enough parts to make a run. And you
Oh,
got the younger players, you got the old expiring contracts. Uh, maybe.
Cleveland. All right, that's interesting. But wouldn't he overlap with Darius Garland though? That's
Well,
kind of
he
the
could be the
thing.
one to be traded
I know. I think the sentiment in the front office over there, um, at the
or
Cavs is
Sexton.
that they would prefer to move Sexton, but
Hmm.
the Sixers probably would want some kind of win now piece. They're trying to align the window of Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid that's going
Yeah.
on right now. Even with Tyrese Maxey playing a lot better than he did last season, it's simply not enough. I mean, the Sixers are playing well. Embiid is able to carry them
Hmm.
in a lot of games, but that's only going to go so far. I think his knees are going to eventually bog down, which almost always happens with him towards the end of the season,
Yep.
especially in the second half after the All Star break. You're going to see him miss multiple games later on. That's always been the case, with him as a big man with, knee issues. So he's definitely going to need some help. But I guess we'll see. That's something to watch, um, for and discuss in another episode. I think, as a parting note, I do believe that this season is going to be a very active one in terms of trading among
Hmm.
the teams,
Hmm.
on or before the deadline. There will be a lot of movers and in the market, especially given that there have been a lot of injuries. COVID is a huge problem. Players missing 10 days at a time. Um, it's a very different time and world that we're living in,
Mm.
along with this pandemic, and the NBA is not immune. And the virus has been hitting so many people, so many players. Multiple teams have multiple players out, like the Bulls, the Hornets. They're missing 5 guys at a time, which is
Yep.
just crazy. uh, but there, so thank you folks for joining us. um Hopefully we're going to be able to do this show maybe 3 times a week, maybe more. The end goal, of course, is to be able to do this every night, but I'm going to try to see and make things fit with my schedule over there at Sports Ethos. But as long as I have the time and the opportunity, I'm going to ring up Marco and say, hey, get on the show. Or if not Marco, I might have another guest with me. Whatever it is, we're going to grow the show, make this dream happen, and improve as we go along.
Yep. I'm
So
down for whatever.
yeah, exactly. So again, Marco, thank you for joining me on the show
Sure.
tonight. Everyone, you can follow us. Those are our Twitter handles underneath our beautiful faces. Again, like, and subscribe. You know the YouTube drill. um, Thank you, and bye bye.
Peace.